Hey, this is Donna from Faded and Forgotten History, and today we're in Elbert County, Georgia. This is a fascinating story. You definitely want to hear all the details. We are at the Nancy Hart cabin, the old home site of Nancy Hart, and she was a Revolutionary War spy and heroine. So you'll want to hear her story. There's a lot of facts and legend that have kind of crisscrossed each other through the years, but it is an amazing story. So we'll start out right here where it tells us a little bit about the history. So right here in front of the cabin is some information about her. Also, get a little bit of look. Of course, this is on granite, and that's important too because Elberton is the granite capital of the world, and we're in Elbert County. Shows the cabin, her, and then a scene, I don't know if you can see it very well, of her, she being a patriot, and the loyalist who stopped by her cabin and demanded to be fed. So we'll tell you a little bit about that story. Okay, I'm going to read what it says on here for the most part. Pardon me for looking hot, but it is in the 90s and it's in Georgia in the summer. So that's just the way it is. Elbert County's legendary Nancy Hart was born in the 1740s in the Northeast. And then she married Benjamin Hart of Virginia, and they moved with their 8 children to the Broad River area of Elbert County around 1771. Her American Indian neighbors knew her as Wahatchee, which means war woman. They renamed the creek in the area Wahatchee in honor of her. Hart was described as tall, muscular, red-headed, fiery-tempered, and cross-eyed, which actually helps out at the end of the story. While living in this area, the Revolutionary War erupted and the incident making her famous occurred. She earned heroine status through various acts of bravery, including an event when a party of 5 loyalists, that means that they were on the side of England, loyal to the king, they came from a British camp in Augusta, crossed the river, and arrived at her cabin demanding that she give them food. So she quickly pointed out that the family had only 1 remaining turkey due to the rest of the flock being killed by a previous group of Tories. And with that, one of the soldiers killed the only turkey still in existence and demanded that Hart cook it. As she grudgingly prepared the meal, she listened to the soldiers talk and learned they had killed her friend and neighbor, Colonel John Dooley. Hiding her anger, Hart brought out plenty of food and drink. She told stories and generally passed around plenty of whiskey. Hart sent her 13-year-old daughter Suki to the spring for water, but whispered for instructions for her to blow the conch shell, warning the men in the fields of dangers at home. Meanwhile, as Nancy walked around her cabin serving the men, she slipped the soldiers' muskets through the chinks in the wall. She had disposed of all but 3 when one of the men caught her. As the soldiers tried to rush her, Hart leveled the gun at them and dared them to move. Because she was cross-eyed, the soldiers could not gauge her direction she was aiming. One man mistakenly thought her gun was pointing in a different direction, and when he went for his gun, Hart shot him. The second soldier made the same mistake and was likewise shot. The third soldier made his move and was also killed by Hart's gun. At that time, Ben Hart and the other men arrived. The group took the rest of the Tories outside to be shot, but Hart relayed the story of the group having murdered Colonel Dooley and reportedly said, "Shooting's too good for him, hang him." And so they did. Apparently, from what we've heard, 5 of them, all 5, were hung, or the first 3 shot, the last 2 hung. For a while, people weren't sure if that was actually true or legend. And then when they were building the highway not too far from here, their 5 skeletons were discovered laying in a row, necks broken. So we know that it was actually something that happened. And this is just one of the accounts of Nancy Hart, but it gives you a good idea of what kind of person she was and how she was instrumental in helping the patriots in the Revolutionary War. So this cabin is actually a reproduction, but it is in the place where the original Nancy Hart cabin stood. And the stones are also taken from the original fireplace and reconstructed by the CCC back in maybe the 1930s. I'll have to check that date to make sure. But let's get a little bit closer look of Nancy Hart's cabin. So we're going up the rock steps here and into the cabin. Very low coming through the door. So we've got the log beams up here that would have been reconstructed like the original one. Everything looks so low. If I'm walking up to the window, it's below my sight line. Small doors. Beautiful fireplace down here at the end. Nice and large for cooking and for heat. Yes, they used, here's the real rocks that were used from the original fireplace that they used to reconstruct this one. Okay, so looking out the back way, the woods, an outhouse over here. One seater. One seater. Yep, one seater. And we had no idea this was here. We just happened to see the signs on the road when we were traveling toward Elberton, Georgia. And this says, this building erected by the Georgia DAR marks the home site of Nancy Hart, where she performed many heroic deeds during the American Revolution. This tablet is placed by the Nancy Hart chapter, Milledgeville, Georgia, and Stephen Hurd chapter, Elberton, Georgia, 1932. So yes, I would assume this was built in the 1930s by the CCC. And then here is the area that it's sitting off a small country road. There's a picnic area down there, and I did notice some type of a monument down there, so we might go in that direction to see what that is as well. What it says. All right, so it says the spring made famous by Nancy Hart, pioneer woman, revolutionary heroine, only woman for whom Georgia named a county. And this was erected by the WPA in 1936, the DAR. So I'm assuming, what do you think? This little path over here must lead to it? I don't see a spring otherwise. Yeah. We do see this body of water right here on the right, but we do know that the creek runs through this area. So we're not quite sure where the spring would be, or maybe it doesn't even exist. Yeah, it does feel much cooler down in this area than it did up there where the cabin was. We walked down this little opening in the woods a little ways and we didn't see anything. So I'll have to research that, and maybe, yeah, there is this little low-lying wet spot over here with a lot of greenery around it. So that's a possibility. A lot could have changed since that sign was erected years ago in the 1930s. But when we come back out of the woods, you can look up the hill to the right and see where the cabin stood. And like a lot of people in that time period, you built your house near a spring, definitely a body of water, because that was part of your existence and a necessity. So we're back in the car heading down the road. It's nice and cool in here compared to out there. And we just left the Nancy Hart site. If you want to find out more information about Nancy Hart, it's a fascinating story. You'll want to check out more about her. Also, if you live in Hartwell, Georgia, you might be interested to know that Hartwell was also named after Nancy Hart. We're finishing up a busy day today. We started out in Anderson, South Carolina, went to through Elberton, and then on to, we stopped in a little town of Powellton, which is just a little, Washington. Yeah, a little small community that we had heard about through reading a book I've got, which is this one, The Neglected Thread, where the character has a journal from the early 1800s and travels into Powellton, and we wanted to see what it looked like. And then we traveled on to Sparta, where she also stayed. Yes, we went through Washington, Georgia, stopped by the Kettle Creek battlefield, and we'll have some of that posted as well. And then we're heading back down through Elberton and then on home. So if you enjoyed our adventures, check out more of them on our YouTube channel and like and subscribe. Also, you might want to check out our Facebook page where we have other things posted as well. Thank you and have a great day. And she was a Revolutionary War spy, got mosquitoes, and arrived at her cabin demanding she give them food. With that, I've got bugs on me. Is it gone? Okay. Okay. Let's see. This part of the story was indeed true. Their necks were broken as they were able to discover as they found their bodies, and this proved this to be an actual event that happened. In a log cabin serving the men, she slit the soldiers' muskets through the chinks in the wall. He went down.